All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Empathy Podcast. We are here today with a very special guest, and I think it's my first time having someone, a guest on the podcast, interviewing someone that is like you, I think, that is born vegan. So that's one of the amazing things and really unique about this podcast is we're talking to Serena, and she was born vegan, so she's never eaten animal products, and so that's really surprising to a lot of people, even to myself, because I feel like we don't meet a lot of people like that, and sometimes I hear stories of people say, "Oh, it's impossible. That can't be done. There's no societies like that. There's no people. There's no long-term this and no, all these kind of whatever, you want to call them excuses or limitations. But I like learning from people like you and stories like you and like long term, to learn, about the lifestyle and about how to do it. And also like in general, especially if I've grown and learned, I came from, suffering from autoimmune disease and to like going into learning more about plant-based and veganism and being able to overcome that like I leaning towards like a lot of the health side and longevity and like just learning so much about it. But also if you're going to commit to something, like my mind goes towards that, I like learning about that, like even the cultures within India or Jainism or some of these cultures around the world, even like the blue zones of people living the longest. It's just I love learning about it. And for me, it's fascinating. And for anyone listening, if that's fascinating to you, this should be a very interesting listen. So let's get right into it. We have Serena. So if you want to share a little bit about you, who you are, and your story.
Yeah. Um, for those who I don't know, maybe are on social media or have seen some of my stuff, I go by Born Vegan, because I was born and raised vegan, and there's a lot of misconceptions and different ideas around like what that really means or what that looks like. But I've written some articles and given some talks titled like "My Parents Forced Veganism on Me." But I clarify what that means, and I use that title because both myself and my parents, when I was growing up, have personally been accused of exactly that. They've said, like, I have been told many times, like, "Oh, you're brainwashed, your parents forced this on you." And people told my parents, and this is going back to the early 90s. I'm, over 30 years old now. Um, and so they would say like, "Well, it's fine that you're, vegan, but it's wrong for you to force your values on your kids." So I've kind of embraced that and then explained what that means. And there's so many misconceptions around this. So when I say, I was raised vegan from birth or my parents, forced veganism on me, quote unquote, like what that really means is that they told me the truth about our food system. They told me the truth about what happens to animals, and they set the norm in our home of feeding me plants. And I turn it around. I'm like, when you accuse someone of sort of forcing veganism on your kids, you're assuming that society is values neutral, and it is not. Society or, the powerful multi-million dollar corporations of our food and beverage and animal agriculture and big pharma industries, they're trying to force their values on children and adults alike 24/7 through advertising, through subsidies, through school lunch programs. Like you're bombarded with these messages. And so my parents basically said, we're just gonna tell you the truth and expose what these corporations and our food system are doing and how we can live happy and healthy lives without hurting, exploiting, or killing innocent beings. And of course they used age appropriate language, but I grew up with this. So they fed me plants and they taught me that you can be happy and healthy and satisfied eating exclusively plants and not participating in any animal exploitation. And so I grew up with that message, and that has really shaped so much of what I do today. I have, done everything from I've worked for, nonprofits in vegan and plant-based nutrition spaces. I have given a TEDx talk. I've traveled around. I lived out of a van for a year, traveling around, speaking and giving workshops on veganism and our food system. Um, I launched a worldwide climate and vegan Earth Day march, and now I'm continuing what I do, coaching people and running. I just launched a brand new Thrive Alive Vegan Fest, a holistic like food and music and camp out festival for this fall. And all of that really is motivated by and coming from the values that I was raised with as a child, which not only are we can live happy and healthy lives without hurting animals, but also this idea of like be the change we want to see in the world. And it starts with us and how we live our lives and the example we set for others. And I continue to do my best to live in alignment with that today.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think a lot of people that have been living in a similar lifestyle as you for many years and that are loving it often say, "Oh my gosh, I wish I learned sooner." I wish I did this sooner, or maybe have some envy of you a little bit, like I wish I was born vegan too, kind of thing. Cuz like I didn't change till I was 29, so I lived the total standard American lifestyle up until that point. Like everything you could imagine. Like I was the type of person that wasn't picky. Like I would say that food is food, everything is available kind of in my mind. And I used to think like I had an iron stomach and I can eat whatever I want and nothing can harm me. And I remember as a kid eating eggs and what you describe as being forced, or I hear that too, being forced, or people talk about that forcing veganism on people and stuff like that. And I've had interviews like that too, or talking about kids and raising vegan kids and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I don't have kids yet, but I have these conversations and like learning and what makes sense. But I remember as a kid eating eggs, but feeling like it was forced on me.
Mm.
And I remember I wasn't picky, but that was one of the few things I didn't like. I remember was eggs. And just remembering having to eat it and you can't leave the table until it's done kind of thing, right? And if you don't finish that, like there's like more negative consequences, beyond that, so it was like you're forced to do this, and if you don't, there's going to be consequences, beyond it, right? And, to me, that's definitely forceful, right? And then, like, of course, I mean, you break down the layers of force, and you're like, let's say eggs, meat, dairy, these things like the forcing of the animals into the killing, into these industries, right? Into the farms, into the, breeding, and whatever, you want to say,
Yeah.
right? Along that about force, right? And I think about it too, like kind of how you describe it as like I would imagine it would be an educational venture. And I just imagine it would be, yeah, a lot of teaching, a lot of education, a lot of watching, a lot of learning, right? I mean, depending on what age I have to think about it, but like even just experiencing, I just imagine like having experiences in real life is what I imagine. Like that's was always the most valuable to me. And I just feel like that's the value that I would want to give to my kids. Let's go see, like the
Mm.
TV says this, I say this, the internet says that. Let's just go see. You know what I mean? Let's go check it out, right? The best that we can. Go see it to reality, right? And often you'll make the once you see the reality, you have to make the choice. It becomes pretty obvious once you see it. And I remember like too as a kid, like at one point I lived side by side. Like I had like a 1 acre of property, and then like my uncle and my cousins had like 2 acres of property, and we were connected our yards, right? Like we just had a
Wow.
fence connecting our yards. We would go across all the time, and they were raised vegan. And would go over there. We all got along relatively. I mean, my dad and my uncle didn't get along sometimes. But all the cousins were, like, best friends, right? Because like, we didn't care. about we're just like, right? But I used to eat everything, right, that they had. And I have an interview on here about with my cousin. He's never eaten meat in his entire life. He ate, animal products, some cheese and stuff, and now he's vegan, but before he's never eaten meat. And when we were younger, he was vegan with his dad, and then I think when he went to his mom, like his mom was more open or whatever, or just more it didn't wasn't as strict about that, right?
Mhm.
And so, but I remember eating like tofu and like all kinds of stuff, when I was younger and just thinking like it was just food, like it was all good. Like I was just happy to eat, you know. I didn't look at it at anything, different or discriminatory until like we got older. And I remember like there was like a difference, a little bit. We're still real good friends. He dealt with it really well, but I just remember like just even me picking on him or other people picking on him, a little bit,
Wow.
about like I'm sure you dealt with that too, how kids are
Mm.
being younger and being, a little bit picked on and stuff like that about like not eating meat and stuff like that. Right, and yeah, it's just, interesting seeing that, and then now, like, obviously, so many years later, like, he's in his 60s and he's still healthy, he still working construction and doing physical really hard, right, and races motorcycles,
Oh, wow.
and so, like, he's not like how a lot of people that eat how we eat in the standard American diet, a lot of people, they're suffering by that age. Like my dad and his brother, the other uncle, all died young in their 50s.
Wow.
And he's still thriving, not like dying. Because a lot of people are like dying in their later years. I was in my
Mhm.
mid-20s feeling like I was like 80 years old
Wow.
in my mid-20s, living that kind of lifestyle and, like, totally, like, completely switching around in a lot of ways over, about almost over 7 years and feeling like I'm 18 again, and I'm 36. I mean, I do definitely look young for sure, but, like, when I'm totally shaven, it looks really young, and the grays that come in make me look older.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I see it around my family, the ones that some that shifted and did better and, like, the ones that didn't, like the looking younger and the, like, almost like reverse aging, and even so many people around me that are the same age and just them looking like in their, like, late 40s and 50s and just, like, it's just so interesting, and, like, I think obviously you spend more time about it around people, and I think it helps to for me personally to understand that and to see it like firsthand. I'm the type of I gotta see it to believe it, and just the more I see and the more like I spent 1 year in Belize in a vegan community, like
Oh,
for an
wow.
entire year. And there was people coming and going, like all types of different vegans and like really unique types, like super spiritual types, super healthy types, super like just so many types. And it
I
was just like
bet.
so interesting, I was just like, whoa, and just like learning like all kinds of different things from each one, and yeah, it just like when someone is saying like that it can't be done or this you're gonna get sick or oh I know this one vegan they got sick or oh I saw this person that whatever they died from a whatever by doing this lifestyle or a baby or anything like that. You could find anything you want, if you're looking for it. You could find some negative story. What I look for is like people like you that are thriving, people like my uncle, people like the person that climbed Mount Everest, like that I was telling you, like the first ever vegan to climb Mount Everest. Like these incredible people that are thriving, that are showing the example. Like I like to learn from that. Like that's to me what this podcast is about, is like learning from people like that, and that's what I stress to others too, is learn from people like you and learn from people that have done these things for like many, many, many years and have like really good experiences, versus like, why are you studying like this person that, did made a lot of mistakes and died young? Like I don't think that's a good person to learn from, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then I was going to ask you, I mean, we're going to ask the next question, I guess, what are some of the biggest challenges maybe that you faced in maintaining this lifestyle? And maybe even you could add to like some people that you help, because maybe it is a little bit different from like, being born, right, vegan versus maybe even helping people and realizing like people like me that like, had to transition.
Yeah, so, I mean, I wouldn't honestly say that I struggle with maintaining this, vegan way of living at all. It's, to me, very easy and very simple when you see things from the victim's perspective. And, it obviously helps that I was raised that way and I've never known anything different. But for me, the most difficult part actually, growing up and even now many times, has always been moving through and living in a society where I feel like I can see an injustice, one that is completely unnecessary, that is so normalized across the rest of the world that, you know, peers and friends and good, caring people that I've grown up with and extended family members, the hardest part has been seeing them right in front of me actively participate in this system of normalized violence and be unable or unwilling to recognize it for what it is. That, that's the hardest part. And figuring out how to sort of navigate that, try to effectively communicate and create change when possible, and also stay sane while doing so and not to feel, just constantly depressed and disheartened and throw my hands up and say, what's the point? Um, and so that's what I've had to navigate, and a lot of trial and error. Um, and I feel like I'm at a pretty decent place with that now. And I think some of the biggest things that have helped me come to a fairly calm place about how to live in a world like this and navigate it is, um, my own personal spirituality and the idea of letting go. And I used to be so attached to the outcome of every conversation and interaction I had with every person around me. I believed if I shared these facts and information, if I absolutely perfectly respond to their "Where do you get your protein?" question or whatever, that I would change their mind and change their behavior and change their actions, and they would also become and live vegan, which very rarely is what happens out of most conversations. Not to say I haven't had some wonderful and effective conversations, but the average conversation does not go that way. And I used to be so attached to the outcome and feel like I was somehow failing or not doing a good enough job, or like there was just, like what was wrong? Why weren't people taking this information and changing? Because it seemed so straightforward to me. And so learning to kind of embody the practices of letting go and detachment and realizing I am only responsible and can only control my actions and myself. No matter how many times people love to accuse vegans of forcing our lifestyle on others, that is the farthest thing from the truth. Anyone eating animals is actively forcing their lifestyle and choices on innocent beings. But in terms of controlling what other people eat or do or how they live their lives, like we really can't control anyone else. And so accepting that and becoming okay with that while still, viewing myself as like I can share information, I can be the change, I can live these values, be an example, and take control of my own actions and choices and health and lifestyle and do this. And that's what's in my control, and I'm gonna focus on that and detach myself from the focus and outcomes that I can't control. Um, and along with that, and I think this actually does apply when it comes to people who do struggle to maintain um a vegan lifestyle, is the mindset piece. So many people want to focus on the nutrition, which is absolutely important. So many people want to, think like if I can figure out how to prep or the money situation, it's more expensive, or, how do I know what to eat, or how do I navigate social situations? How do I eat out with friends? And they think that it's all those things derailing them. They think it's some nutrition or lack of protein or struggle that they're having. And it's not. It's your mindset, because that's what makes the difference between people who find vegan living easy and those who don't. It comes down to the mindset you have and the awareness of the normalized system of violence and disease in our society. And if you are able to recognize that for what it is and recognize its power and how influential our peers and our culture and media all are on influencing our behavior and what we think is normal and natural and necessary, then once we have that awareness, and that's why that awareness is so important, then it's easier for us to look at our mindset and say, oh, I'm looking at this from my perspective, not the animals. I'm looking at this from a selfish perspective or a limiting mindset. I'm letting these limiting beliefs that that aren't an accident either. Like I said before, there are powerful multi-million-dollar corporations that are creating this system of normalized disease and violence, and they want us to have these limiting beliefs, whether, that's directly what they're trying to do or not. That is the result of this society we live in, and we have to be mindful of that, and it's the people that are able to recognize that and focus on their mindset and say, I want to live my ethics and I'm going to do whatever I can to make this work. I will overcome these challenges, social, nutrition, whatever they think it is. Those are the people that are successful. And you have to really focus on the mindset side of things rather than the physical things first. Once you focus on the mindset and address, limiting beliefs, the other things will fall into place. You will find solutions. You will be able to make it be simple and easy and all of the benefits that come with it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I time goes on, I definitely share so much more about mindset overall, and like it's become such a huge piece in a lot of my talking with a lot of people, and even myself for sure. Like in my mind, I didn't want to change at all. I was like, I want to keep eating the way I'm eating, eating pizza and burgers and alcohol and all the junk, right? And it was like I was so sick and like dying from the way I was eating and the medication that I was like praying for anything to change, like looking for any answer and like willing at the I finally was able I was finally got to a place where I was willing to change, and like the mindset was willing to change. And it was like overnight,
Wow.
it wasn't like trying like vegetarian for a little bit or this for a little bit. It was like from one like standard American to vegan like overnight and didn't never went back, right? And yeah, the mind was like the most powerful thing. I was like ready to say I'll do anything to change, whatever it takes. And like it's stayed strong like that, you know. But of course I've learned so much. I've seen so much. I've filmed inside slaughterhouses. Like I've seen a lot, you know. Now over the
Yeah.
time there was, I think you've seen some people go through stages a little bit of like everyone's a little bit different, but I went through a moment of like heavy animal rights, doing everything I could do possibly, from even we even shut down the largest slaughterhouse in the US for an entire weekend. I was part of that campaign. And then it's now Farmer John's, that slaughterhouse in
Mhm.
Los Angeles is now closed.
Yeah.
Not because of that one specifically, that action, but like there was a lot of actions maybe, that built up,
Mhm.
to maybe making it happen or whatever. But anyways,
Amazing.
lots of things and but yeah, the mindset's been the number one. It also like I almost think like it's possible for anyone now after everything I've seen and everything I've learned. And I've added so much of the nutrition pieces in almost like I started seeing people like it was almost like people got it, either they got it with the ethics or maybe the environment or whatever the reasons they got it. But then there was always like that obscure like person that was like, oh well, I have this health issue and I need this and this and this. Or, I'd watch a debate, or something like Earthling Ed or whatever, and he's like he couldn't answer the health problem. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He'd be like, great, but like this obscure health problem. And I was like obsessed with like finding like all the like kind of squashing all the excuses, you know what I mean? So to
Yeah.
speak, like including all the little obscure health ones. I even seen people like maybe you've seen a long term or whatever, and they're like been vegan for so many years, and they have this random health thing that happens or whatever, and then they're like, yeah, now I'm adding bone broth and this, and it's like, and so I was just like, I just saw enough of that I was like, how do I find the solution for this? So that's part of it, a little bit of like the mindset too, that I have, that some have, everyone's a little bit different, and then the feeling what you felt of like the society and everyone around me and being part of it and being everyone being complicit and just seeing it around and like I went like real negative for a while, like a lot of like real PTSD, and like a lot of not good thoughts, and was real struggling mentally, right, with my mental
Yeah.
health with that kind of with a lot of those thoughts that you had. And when I went to Belize in that vegan community, that was a huge reason why I was like, I didn't want to be around it anymore. But because of being around that in a really it was like a healing center, it was like a vegan retreat that, like, closed because of COVID, so they were in transition to what they wanted to do next, and part of it was building community, and, but one of the things that I learned on top of, like, just getting a lot better, overall in my health and learning so many more things like that, um, is that dang, I lost it. I lost what I was
Go.
gonna say about it. Oh, what I learned is if I being in that kind of environment is incredible, and that's why you do retreats, right? You
Yeah.
see the power, it's incredible. Any kind of all I'm for all of that. I think it's all great. Even a weekend, a week, a year, whatever you can do is great. Um, and but what I learned is that if I'm in there in that environment and then I stay there, I wasn't impacting as many people as I thought, as I wanted to. And I realized I need to kind of be in the city, you know what I mean? In
Mhm.
near the people to like make an impact, spread my light, on others and, help with the influence. And it was, it's a balance because I still need the, get away in the retreats. But I realized that yeah, I just need, part of me was like, get away. But then I was like, I need to, be around, some to influence them, like just even the family members that influence, you know how it is. All the people that you influence that you're around. And if
Yeah.
you're not around them, it's just a little bit harder doing it from digitally and, through the internet and social media. And then the other huge piece for helping me too, overall, of like, a lot of the challenges that we face and the alone and all of the challenges that we face was the community. Like, I'm sure you have some, or maybe you've built some communities, or you have your own, or maybe you have some great ones that you're just a part of, and that too, like finding really good communities or creating your own is so critical for
Absolutely.
us living the lifestyle. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of communities, and maybe you've been part of some communities that weren't so good, right? You're like, what happened, And it's like, maybe some toxicity happened or infighting, right? Whatever things happen, right? But finding some good ones or, whatever you gotta do, right? I think is one of the most important things. And also for maintaining, the lifestyle. And I've seen people that like struggle and like just I was I mean, I didn't struggle with veganism, but I struggled with like health, like other things, you know what I mean? There's other things that that you might struggle, not just maintaining the lifestyle. That might be like no problem, right? But there's these other challenges that happen, right?
Yeah.
That like like a community can help, with that. Um, and I wanted to ask you too, speaking of challenges that, I face and maybe you face and maybe some people within, our lifestyle face is like relationships or finding a partner or, having a
Mhm.
partner, that's often maybe you hear about that or I don't know your experiences with it, but I know that it's definitely, yeah. What would you say to those kind of challenges and how has it been, I guess, for you?
Yeah. Um, well, I'm still single, so there's that. But yeah, I mean, I have no interest in spending my life with someone that is eating animals. And definitely not easy living in Kansas in the Midwest. Um, so yeah, that part is a challenge. Outside of that, like in terms of community and friends and other relationships, um, I have built a wonderful community and I've been very intentional about cultivating friendships and connections that are built on shared values and similar intentions. And I highly, highly recommend that. Like the festivals and retreats and vegan communities I've been in, similar to what you're saying, especially as a kid and growing up, going once a year to Vegan Summerfest, attending other festivals as well. These are things that really nourished me and kept me going. Um, it wasn't something I was living in. This would be for a weekend or 5 days or a week. But having that experience every year, having a little time period where I got to feel normal, where I could eat everything without asking questions, where I didn't feel like I was the odd one out or different for what the way I lived was so, so wonderful. And that's not to say, I think we shouldn't necessarily always be emphasizing fitting in or agreeing with everyone around us, because I think there are problems with that too. And there's problems with, emphasizing and especially teaching children, like, that it's bad to be different. Like, we want to embrace difference. And at the same time, we are, communal beings. We are people that crave authentic and deep connection. And I think, like you were saying, that is one of the biggest things that I think does derail people. Even and this is why mindset is so powerful. You can have people that really do care, really do wanna be vegan, but they're just not quite strong enough on their own to step outside of the tribe, step outside of their community, put themselves, stand up to that pressure or be different. Whether intentionally or not, I think sometimes these are, kind of underlying things that derail people, and they think it's, "Oh, it's health reasons," or, "Oh, it's this, it's oh, but those are really excuses covering up the fact that it can be really hard to be different. It can be really isolating if you don't have a vegan community or a vegan partner or these, support systems in place. And
And and the amount of, like, heavy, heavy propaganda and marketing that is being bombarded constantly
absolutely.
to get you to give in. Like, you
Yes.
just driving 15 minutes down the road, and I'll see almost every single fast food place there is, and that's all of them are marketing, like, every second.
Yes. Yes.
Like, they're
Absolutely.
building as a marketing campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, and it derails people, and that's why that's one of the big motivations for the festival I mentioned I'm organizing. I've been to all these other festivals, I've been to smaller events, and I've been to lots of veg fests, and I love veg fests, but I don't think they do enough in the truly cultivating community. Like, that's not the same as a retreat or being with a group of people, for several days at a time, and
Yeah, festival and, like, retreat style thing, different for sure. Yeah, like,
very
a
different.
different vibe, yeah.
Yeah, and so I've really been wanting to create something, bringing together all the different elements of different things I've attended and been to that I've felt have been helpful, to create, like, something that is both educational, but at the same time, it's really fun. Like, people can come in by themselves, whether I don't want it to be something where people feel like they have to come with someone, with a partner, with a family, and it's gonna, just be shopping and browsing and whatever. Like, I want people to feel like they can show up by themselves and walk away with new best friends and, people they stay in touch with, and they feel so connected and nourished and supported. Um, and that's because I see the power of it. And I think and that's the power of a lot of activism and groups too. Like, some people come because it's like an instant community, an instant, oh, meetup thing to do. And that alone is not enough. You have to care and have the mindset and be dedicated to things as well. But without that, I really think it is so much harder in this world. And yeah, it can definitely, like, I've been there, and when I went to high school, there wasn't another vegan in my high school. College, it took me a few months before I met some other vegans, and then there were a handful of them, but most of my friends around me through, until the last few years, where now most of my friends are vegan, but that's a very new thing for me. Um, and that's something I have very intentionally curated and cultivated. And to be clear, it's not like I've just cut out all my friends that weren't vegan by any means. It's just been a natural progression of the situations and places, the activities I've chosen to participate in, the boundaries I have set with some people, and environments I put myself in. I have now curated and cultivated a much more supportive, like-minded community. Um, and
There was
yeah,
something yeah, there was something I saw recently. I posted it said, "With growth, there's a lot of goodbyes."
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's just part of it, you know? And it is what it is, like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Stay stuck or stay where you were, And even like like part of some of the things I talk about is like goodbye autoimmune disease,
Mhm.
and that was also kind of like a little bit what I was alluding to as well. That was part of my growth, like saying goodbye to these diseases, that shouldn't have I shouldn't have. I mean, I believe I developed it because of my poor choices, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I can reverse it and that similarly believing for others, that I've seen or that can do it, through the plants, right?
Yep.
Through the right with the plants. Okay, so let's wrap this up. This has been really great, and you shared so much amazing things. Is there anything that maybe you want to leave us with, or anything that you want to share, or just anything that speaks to your heart?
Um, well, I guess this is gonna be a shameless plug for all of your listeners, but if you don't have a vegan community and you wanna make more vegan friends and have fun and eat some delicious food, um, please do check out Thrive Alive Vegan Fest. It will be this September, just outside of Kansas City. All food will be included. It'll be all Whole Foods, predominantly Whole Foods, plant-based, all vegan, of course. But also we're working to, have minimal added sugars and oils and processed foods while still being absolutely delicious. Um, and we'll have speakers and workshops and yoga classes and authentic relating and connectional kind of, like a mix of vegan conference veg fest with music festival and adult summer camp vibes. Think like a mashing of all of those together, um, for a fun, educational community experience. And this is really my dream project that for like the past 7 or 8 years I've wanted to create and help other people experience some of my favorite times throughout my life. And but I just can't overemphasize how, like, if you've never been in that environment, how incredible it can feel if you have dealt with loneliness or isolation on your vegan journey, to find a community that's supportive, find a space even for a few days where you get to sort of fit in and the reverse of our culture is normalized. Peace and compassion and health and sustainability are just the norm there. So, um, yeah, like I would love for everyone to get to experience that and be involved.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds amazing. And I hope to potentially be there.
Would
Well,
love to
few,
have you come.
I definitely have a few that I saw. There were definitely some interesting ones coming up, which is really amazing. I think the more the better. Because sometimes, one, just the more the better is just in general good,
Absolutely.
like
Mhm.
for the world. But just the reality of some people is the location, right? So even like let's say there's two are almost the same date, right? And but like someone like just can't get to the one in Michigan or whatever, but they could get to the
Mhm.
one in Kansas. You know what I mean? Then it's like great,
Yeah.
and that's what I see even like sometimes even like digital communities. Sometimes like there be a lot of things, and like sometimes people feel overwhelmed, but I always say it's not about coming to every single thing and being a lot of things. It's like what fits in your time frame, your schedule. There might be multiple
Mhm.
things because everyone has such a different schedules. Some people working
Yeah.
9 to 5, some people working weekends, some people not working weekends. So that kind of thing for digital stuff. And then yeah, in person things similar, like locate, like where are you located? Like I'm in California, Southern California, you know, maybe it is easier to get to Kansas, than one that's in Pennsylvania or something like that, right? Um, and so yeah, I think though that's really, really great. And I too also, I mean, I've been in little parts of, things that I've shared, as well. But I also have like dreams like that of having like consistent, long-term stuff,
Mhm.
where it's like maybe like something that could be available year round, but then we have special events for lots of people. And like I even thinking like of having like options of like even having it be like a rehab facility, or so to speak, where someone that wants to like go vegan but like is struggling and that goes there, they go to this, retreat, they get all the fun and experience. And it's also an animal sanctuary where they also where like one of the challenges with animal sanctuaries is people and like
Yeah.
volunteers. Well, it's part of the program. You give back to the animals and that's part of it. So it helps to keep it going, and it's symbiotic because it's like part of you getting your experience of, learning, is great to work with animals, right?
Yeah.
Getting that experience, right? Just stuff like that. Idea of farm, of having a farm there, so then like the food is like them supplied there too, it's a lot of the food, right? And so
Yeah.
it's all connected, you know. And yeah, maybe long-term stays for people that could go there, right? Or short-term stuff. And so yeah, that's definitely similar visions
Yeah.
along
Amazing.
that. And even some of the work that I've done has been like close to it, or we've done many pizzas of it, or you've been parts of it, or you're creating one, right? And so yeah, even like there's a few people that I know too now that are like creating ones like that, as well. That's like it's just it's so good and so amazing. And yeah, I think just the value of it is so great. Like, and I really think the smaller style, like what you're describing, is better. It's easier for us to do it anyways, to manage something that's really big anyways, right? But I think the value I've experienced more value in those smaller ones, personally.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that makes the most sense. And what a lot of us can do, I even think those that are doing social media, let's say you don't have the ability to do something in person, your Instagram account is its own mini community. Your Facebook account is its own mini community. If you have your Facebook groups or whatever kind of groups you have online, Kajabi, whatever you have, right? Those are mini communities,
Mhm.
And like if you view it like that and you view yourself like as like a positive, influence, like community builder kind of thing. I even have in my Facebook thing, like building communities. Like that's kind of like the mindset that I have too. It's like there's a lot of these little communities being built, that are already built that I have, but also being built more further along. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like so hard. Like, what do you do? I just think it's one of the ways that we can do, one of the things that we can do. If you're like, what do I do? How do I help? How do I give back? What do I do for the animals? Like to me, it's just one of the ways, that we can do. I think it's all important. The person that fills inside the slaughterhouse, that person's important. The person that's like, protesting on the streets, that's important. I'm not that type of person. Like, no, this is the most important thing that everyone needs
Yeah.
to be doing, or whatever. I'm like, it's all important. The person that's making the vegan clothing, that person's important. The person that's making the really cool recipes, that like I probably couldn't create, that's really cool, right? Or whatever, even like the
Mhm.
person reversing autoimmune. I think that collaboration is important. I think we should do a lot better job is like pointing like, oh, go talk to this person. Oh, you're dealing with autoimmune,
Yeah.
you need a plant-based solution, go talk to this person. Oh, you want to go to a community, go check out Serena's community, and like that's also what I've been doing my best to foster, of more collaboration with us that are like-minded. Not you see this like, oh, plant-based for health versus plant-based for animals kind of thing. You've probably seen some of that. Like
Mhm.
I don't like that. Like, because I believe I'm totally like both, like when
Yeah.
someone's like, "What are you like?" I'm like so for the animals, but also so for the health, like both, like so much, like like just one, it maybe it's more, but like really, really, really strong on both of them. That I think both or more is better. I believe, and not like just choosing one, this or that. I believe this and that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll be trying to cover it all at ours. Very holistic in nature that way, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll let you know when this is up and when you can see it. And thank you so much. We'll be chatting soon. I appreciate you. Thank you for all you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. I did as well. Bye.
Bye.